And I thought I'd begin with a little bit of a introduction. Um, and really, the theme this morning, um, I've been thinking a lot about the peace walk of the monks that culminated here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., just this week. So we'll go into a meditation after that. And then after our meditation today, we will have some movement with Emily. And then I will do a Dharma talk, a short talk on steadiness in uncertainty, really about the practice of equanimity. And then we'll have time for reflection, conversation. And that part's not recorded. Right now we're recording. So we record on Sundays so we can share it with others. We record our meditation and we record our talk, but we don't record the interaction, the reflection period. We stop recording at that time. So I'm not sure how many of you were following the peace walk, the monks. Maybe just a raise of hand. Um, and it was just really amazing to witness this their 2,300-mile walk over 108 days from Texas to Washington, D.C., walking through small towns and along highways and through winter storms. It really did captivate. I believe it really did captivate so many people in our country and actually around the world. And what I really loved about it, so many things I loved about it, but I really loved their simple message of peace and practices of mindfulness. So if you were able to tune in to some of the sessions where the Venerable Bhikkhu Panakara uh, spoke, he really led the groups he was speaking to um, in mindfulness meditation. You know, putting your hand on your heart, slowing down, noticing your breath. And while the group was here in Washington, D.C., they did meet at the National Cathedral, not far away from where I live, and that's where I personally went to see the monks. And during a talk at the National Cathedral, um, the Venerable Bhikkhu Panakara and other monks talked about the practice of compassion and how this transcends religious differences. And that was during their sacred stop on the Walk for Peace. And it was really amazing to witness the diversity of people coming out um, to witness the Peace Walk. And the message on the purpose of the Peace Walk, as stated by the Venerable Bhikkhu Panakara, was he said, I'm not here to bring you peace, but to raise awareness of peace so that you can unlock that box and free it for yourself. You need to practice mindfulness, he said, to unlock the box where you keep peace and happiness inside. He said, now it's your job, really your duty, to find that box and to unlock it. You're the only one who can do this for yourself, not the venerable monks, not the reverends, not anybody else but you. And that seems to be a very strong through line that's resonating in the Dharma and meditation and mindfulness communities. Really about practicing together here as we're practicing in our sangha, our community, and creating a community of practice on meeting this world just as it is with a steady and wise heart, where we can learn and practice together, cultivating steadiness, the theme of today, and compassion, and then also that wise response, bringing in the wisdom as a way to serve, to serve in this world, bringing our practice into relationships. The world does need our steadiness and our kindness and our wise presence. So I was planning for today and then thinking about over the course of the next several Sundays where I'm teaching that I would like to focus on a few themes about the steadiness and peace and wisdom and service that we can cultivate into our lives and into our way of being in the world. And so those four themes are steadiness. I'll just begin with the first, steadiness, cultivating presence during times or feelings of uncertainties, and then compassion, karuna, keeping the heart open without burning out. And then wise hope. So a teacher of mine in the Zen tradition, I'll be mentioning her a few times today, Roshi Joan Halifax, describes wise hope as an active, non-attached stance rooted in uncertainty, this not knowing, and the acknowledgement of suffering, and recognizing what we do really matters. And then the last theme in this series will be around sacred service, how we engage in the world. And I want to introduce the grace model, also put forward by Roshi Joan Halifax. And this is rooted in not knowing, coming from a place of humility, service as an act of love and presence. Nothing extra, nothing added, yet fully embodied. And so that will be an introduction to the grace model. So now let's practice. So finding your position, a comfortable posture for about a 30-minute, 25-30-minute seated practice. Just taking some moments up front to find a posture that's upright, but also relaxed. Relaxed. So finding a posture where you can sit comfortably for 25 to 30 minutes. And balancing between being alert and relaxed. And bringing the focus as we begin to your posture. You may need to move a little back and forth, side to side, finding those posture points. Some of you may be lying down, but if you're seated, allowing your hands to relax, palm over palm in your lap. Your thumbs may be slightly touching. mudra, ears over shoulders, rolling shoulders up and back, chin tucked slightly, allowing the neck muscles to relax, softening your gaze. And moving inward with your attention. Slowing down. And tuning in to the intention for your practice. What brought you here today? Being aware of your intention. And taking refuge in this awareness of being aware. Allowing your breath to be an anchor of your awareness. Awareness of this present moment. Of being here, right now. Finding more stillness in your body as your mind, body adjusts to the meditation posture. Zen Master Dogen would say, sit in the body's meditation posture. Sit in the mind's meditation posture. Sit in the meditation posture of letting go of the mind-body. And we're all coming to this practice for our own myriad of reasons, our individual intentions for practice. Yet we practice together as one sangha, one community. So we sit, allowing breath to be an anchor for our awareness. To bring us into the body, in and down. Noticing the belly breathing. And taking deep breaths when needed to calm the nervous system. It takes just a few deep cleansing breaths to trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. Moving out of flight or freeze and fear into rest and digest. And being right here with this body and mind, we have a place that can become a place of stability, of steadiness in times of uncertainty. A place of presence, of refuge. And just noting one challenge when we come into the body can be all of those feelings. Feelings of anxiety or physical pain as we adjust our posture. Perhaps restlessness, dullness, heartache. It may be easier to be somewhere else than the body. So the mind wanders out, looking for some other place to be. But the body and mind belong together. And when the mind-body is working together, there's power there. So we practice and we learn how to be present with feelings and feeling tones in the mind-body. we can turn towards as best and as compassionately as we can to that which is uncomfortable in an interested or curious way, like making friends with the discomfort. Turning towards discomfort. It gets a chance to be known, to be felt. And it will change. Coming back to your mind and your body and paying attention to what's here and just noting it's like this. And the meditation guidance is simple. Just using your breath to come in and down into your body, into a deeper, more spacious awareness. And feeling again your body grounded. Supported by the earth element to earth element. Breathing in and down into the belly. Feeling your body steady, still, as your breath comes and goes. The steadiness of cultivating presence. letting be and letting go, creating a clearing, a space. Staying steady and aware of whatever arises. And just noticing this with curiosity, an awakening factor. With this awareness, this curiosity, stability of mind and body, we're more able to be with what arises, to be with what is difficult, what is joyful. To be with all the things comes wisdom. Finding beauty in a broken world is creating beauty in a broken world. Breathing in and down. And in the closing moments of our practice, we can gather and share the merit. This is a beautiful thing, demonstrating how we don't practice alone. We don't practice only for ourselves, but for the benefit of all beings without exception. By dedicating merit, we express our gratitude for the opportunity to practice together, reminding us that we can share our practice and the benefits to all beings in our lives, and radiating out to all beings in the world. May we find ways to live more lightly on the earth, with more steadiness, with more love, compassion. And may all beings find ways to live their lives with a more awakened heart. And a deep bow to all of you for showing up today and sharing this beautiful practice. Thank you for your practice. Very slowly coming back to the space, this shared space we created. Bringing some movement to your body. Okay, now as we settle back in, I have prepared a short Dharma talk, and the theme, as I mentioned earlier, is steadiness in uncertainty and meeting the edge without abandoning ourselves. So I'm offering this talk for the times when, for many of us, the ground may feel a little less steady. When we're living with unanswered questions, when plans shift, and when the mind may be scanning the horizon for some sense of certainty and not finding it. So when talking about steadiness today, I'm not talking about it in terms of like stuff like really toughness or stoicism. I'm talking about the steadiness that comes from staying in touch with your life just as it is, and not tuning out or ruminating too much, right, about the past or the future, but staying present. Like we were just doing in our meditation practice, being mindful and present in the moment, even when we don't know what's coming next. So I thought I would include a little Dharma story. And this story is one that if I would have a title for it, I would call it The Email I Kept Writing in My Sleep. So there was a stretch for me at work when I was feeling pretty unsteady, coming into a new job, not because I didn't know how to do my job, but because I didn't know how to be with a particular situation, really with the integrity that I want to bring to my life and into my work. So I was starting this new position, and a colleague and I were supposed to be working together as a team. And on paper, I would say that we were aligned, but in practice, things started to feel, I would just say, undermined, uncertain, this undermining feeling. Decisions, for example, would get revisited after we'd agreed. Sometimes I felt that information wasn't being shared at the right moments. I'd learn about some key conversations after the fact. That's not a good feeling. And over time, this quiet question began to start looping in my mind. Um, is this like a misunderstanding between me and my colleague, or is it intentional? And that was like gasoline for the mind. So I remember, some evenings, as I was falling asleep, um, thinking, and planning already about the next day. It's that, okay, tomorrow I'm going to talk to my supervisor. I'm going to be very clear. I'm going to be very professional about what's going on. I'm going to put on my lawyer hat. I'm going to stick to the facts, state my case. Um, but then my mind would start drafting the conversation and drafting it over and over. Um, And I even recall getting up sometimes and, having a little notebook and pen by my bedside table. And I would start, I would draft down some notes, things that were on my mind. Like maybe this will calm my mind. I'll just write it down. Um, and then, but my mind still kept ruminating. I was trying to find the perfect arrangement of words that would guarantee, what I thought would be a clean outcome, that I would be heard, that I wouldn't damage, any of these new working relationships, that I wouldn't be seen as the difficult one, and that the work that I cared so deeply about would also be protected. So there's a lot going on there. And then something even stranger happened. I started drafting these emails in my sleep. So the mind really wasn't turning off, even if I woke up and jotted down some notes. And the drafting continued in dreams. And I'd wake up with a sentence in my mind, a rebuttal or a justification, an imaginary reply from my supervisor. It just, it went on and on. And I also noticed that my body would be tired. Um, but my mind would still be at work trying to achieve this or any type of certainty, um, especially around the outcome, right? The outcome that I wanted. So at some point, thankfully, I noticed that I wasn't actually working the situation anymore. It was really working me. And the mind, the mind had turned it into a puzzle, a kind of courtroom and a chessboard. I was trying to think my own way into like a safer space. And under all that drafting, I did notice a very human emotion, and that was fear. If I handle this wrong, something important could be lost. Trust, credibility, the work that I so care about itself. And then I do remember the one evening where I finally stopped. I'd met what I would define and learn about as my edge state of fixing, my edge state of trying to control, trying to micromanage the outcome. And I stopped because it's not because I found the right words or really the right approach, but I realized I'd crossed a line um, into a kind of an inner turmoil. Could witness the impact it was having on me, my body, mind. Um, and I did sense, that I was even abandoning what I've learned and what I practice and what I teach about being present and being mindful in this moment without judgment. And I noticed I was making my nervous system, really my whole body, pay for a sense of certainty that I couldn't actually obtain. Like the light went off, this awakening moment here. So I did something pretty simple. I closed the laptop and I put both feet on the floor and just recalled some teachings for meditation practice. And I asked myself, like, what is really true for me in this moment? I was able to name what was true in the body. I could feel the tightness. I could feel the tension, the stress, emotions maybe of like anger, not not being heard. Um, Also the wish to be seen as, the responsible one, and also the wish to protect the work that we're supposed to be doing together as a team. And then I thought about like this sort of like what would equanimity look like? This, calmness in the midst of a storm look like right now? And could I embody that? Not what would win, not what would control the narrative or guarantee the outcome that I wanted, but just like what would steadiness look like? And the answer quietly was just to stop, to stop. Stop trying to control, stop trying to solve the problem or the perceived problem, and but also to acknowledge the suffering, things not going the way that I wanted. And then, like really studying the Four Noble Truths, like there is suffering. Things aren't going to go the way I want. Um, but just not to add to it. Don't add to my suffering. Don't shoot that second arrow. So come back to the body, came back to the breath. And the next day I didn't send the email that I've been polishing in my mind and writing in my sleep for days. Instead, I asked my supervisor just to sit down to have a short meeting. And I kept it simple. I like keeping things simple and clear as possible. So I spoke from my own observations, not accusations, really tried hard not to be accusatory. I named the impact that it was having on me, this situation, this work situation, and about what I actually needed to function as a team. And I just let it be imperfect because steadiness doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. And the situation, I would say, did not resolve instantly, but something shifted in me and my relationship to the situation, my relationship to this particular person also shifted. Like there was more space. I allowed in more kindness, a little more steadiness. And that steadiness is the willingness to feel what's here and then to be able to choose the next step with some integrity intact. And then when I think about choosing the next step, because it's also a really important part of the Four Noble Truths, is this path, the Eightfold Path. And I came back to the Eightfold Path and I reread Right Speech or Wise Speech. And I thought about wise action. And then also bring in wise and right livelihood, because I know they're all intertwined. And that was very helpful. So I would say the moral, if you will, of the story is sometimes the most compassionate thing that we can do for ourselves is to stop writing emails in our sleep and return to the only place where maintaining integrity is possible. And that place is right here. It's this moment. And I also jotted down this quote from Suzuki Roshi that I'll share. He said, our practice has to do with no gaining mind. It's not about getting or becoming. It's about returning, coming home to a fundamental goodness. So I mentioned an edge state, and I wanted to speak a little bit about this. And this is something that I've learned about from my teacher in the Zen tradition, Roshi Joan Halifax. She actually wrote a book on edge states called Standing at the Edge. Goes way more in depth than what I'm about to share. But it does offer a language that I find both compassionate and precise. She speaks in this book about what can happen as we approach an edge. There are various edges in life. When complexity, fear, grief, or uncertainty really push our systems into survival strategies. And these edge states are not, and she's very clear about this, they're not moral failures, they're human. And with practice, they can become more recognizable. So I want to name 3 common edge states that show up in uncertainty. And you will likely know your own versions. The first one is the edge of fear, contraction, and the body tightens, the attention narrows, the world becomes a series of threats, and we may become more diligent, more reactive when we're in a fearful state, more defensive, more sharp. And the question underneath is often, how am I going to protect myself? The edge of fear, contraction. The second is the edge of fixing, and this is the state I believe I was in. Control and overfunctioning. And this one, it can look like responsibility, even virtue, if you will. We manage, we optimize, we strategize, we take on too much. We try to control the outcome. We try to control how other people respond. That's that's impossible. We try to control the story. And the question underneath this edge of fixing is, how do I make this certain? Or how do I make this, if this we don't like it, how do I make this go away? And the cost is that we lose contact with the living present and the tender heart. The third is the edge of collapse. And this may feel like those freezing moments, numbing, or disengagement. It's when the system decides it can't win, but it can shut down. We might go blank. We might scroll, check out. We may say, I don't care. but underneath we know that we care very much. So in short, the practice here is recognizing the edge early, the edge of fear, the edge of fixing, the edge of collapse. These are a few examples. So recognizing the edge clearly and early with tenderness, so we can return before we say or do something that we later regret. And there's a steadiness here. The steadiness isn't about never going to your edge state. It's actually about learning the path back. I think that's really interesting. So the steadiness is not about meeting your edge or being there or recognizing the edge, but it's about learning your path back, the return path. And for the return path, I'm thinking of some other teachers like Jack Kornfield, who often reminds us that the path is simple. The return path, we return again and again. It's like coming back to the breath, returning again and again to this present moment in a mindful way with kindness and compassion for ourselves and others. And Sharon Salzberg also teaches on this topic about returning with loving kindness, not with self-criticism. And together, they often teach about these 3 refuges that are always available during times of uncertainty. There's refuge in the body. When we feel the feet, we feel ourselves grounded. We feel the seat. We feel our posture, right? Upright, stable, strong back, soft front. One inhale, one exhale. That's refuge in the body. And then there's refuge in the heart, offering warmth to the places of fear, that kind-heartedness. And then there's also refuge in awareness, noticing that uncertainty is happening in awareness. Thoughts arise, sensations arise. And something in you can hold them. This noticing, this awareness, refuge in this present moment. So steadiness is not the absence of disturbance or an edge state, but it is the capacity to stay and to return, and finding some equilibrium, some equanimous state. So thinking of equanimity, that steady state in the midst of a storm. So we can do a very short guided practice, just for a few minutes, on sitting with a loving presence to round out this Dharma talk. So slowing down, returning to your posture, softening your eyes, and tuning back into your own breath. Feeling this support beneath you. Really allowing the spine to be upright yet not rigid. The hands rest easily. The face is relaxed. The jaw is unclenched. Bringing your attention to these contact points, the seat on your chair or cushion, the feet on the floor. Noticing the breath, just simply noticing without trying to change or fix or control. Just feel the in-breath and the out-breath. Now explore the mind and bring to mind a situation that carries uncertainty. Something present in your life, but not too overwhelming. Something you're uncertain about. Just taking a moment to bring this to mind. And just noticing what may be happening in the body when you think about this uncertain situation. And gently ask, when uncertainty arises, am I moving toward contraction and fear? Am I moving toward fixing, controlling? Do I move toward collapse and numbing? Just notice, no judgment. You can silently name what's here. Maybe it's fear, fixing, freeze, or an edge. Now offer yourself a loving presence. You might place a hand on the heart if that feels supportive. And imagine the steadiness of a wise, kind teacher sitting beside you, unhurried, grounded, at ease. And you can repeat slowly to yourself a few phrases, letting the tone matter more than the words. Uncertainty is here. and I am here. May I meet this moment with kindness. May I be steady. Uncertainty is here, and I am here. May I meet this moment with kindness. May I be steady. And now ask, what is one small, values-aligned step I can take? Not the whole plan, not an email, just the next wise step. Let the answer be simple. A word. And returning to the breath, feeling the support beneath you. And just closing with a vow, a wish of learning to recognize our edge states early. May we return to the body, return to the heart, return to awareness. And may the steadiness we cultivate serve something larger than our own uncertainty. May it support wise action, compassion, and the alleviation of suffering. And when you're ready, you can come back, open your eyes. Thank you.